When a child is born, he is taught to sit and stand, drink and eat, listen and speak, love and hate. He is born to trust others without particular prejudice or bigotry. Simply stated, a child is not born a racist, he learns to become one. However, according to Professor Philip Goff at UCLA, racism and negative stereotyping are many times results of unconscious bias, and they're just ideas that people got too used to. So, in order to suppress this, we can become aware of our own biases by acknowledging other perspectives through simple literature. Speaking about literature, I came upon a book called Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, which is the source of inspiration for this presentation. The novel circles around a man who realizes that he is a victim of racism, and he discloses his encounters in this novel, justifying them with his psychological discoveries about humanity. He claims that racism is just a victim of invisibility, that those who are blinded with an ability to see which the prejudice does not allow them to see force others into a life of effective invisibility. The blindness causes people to be unable to understand others' existences, concluding to discrimination due to lack of perspective. His story is very common told by many people. While pregnant and caring for another child, my grandmother had to leave her husband in Indonesia and start a new life with her two children from nothing, just because she had Chinese ancestry, which wasn't socially accepted there. And it's heartbreaking for love to be torn apart because of racial divides. Even in America, racial injustice is carrying a high toll. There's a current craze saying Black Lives Matter, but ironic as it is, Black lives only matter as long as there's a white life involved. According to FBI records, 4,906 murders were committed by Black people of Black people between 2010 and 2011. Yet barely any of these murders sparked a media response as great as one if a black man had murdered a white man or if a white cop murdered a black teenager. The media only shows specific stories, seeming to view interactions with white people as more important, disregarding everything else. This is unfair because it's literally as if black lives didn't really matter, that many of it's just for publicity. And although most black people are innocent, they're portrayed negatively, and that unconscious bias kicks in whenever you try to avoid a black man who walks around in clothing other than an iron-pressed suit. Poet Maya Angelou once said, "The plague of racism is insidious, entering into our minds as smoothly and quietly and invisibly as floating airborne microbes enter into our bodies." And it all begins with a visual representation of perfection, and whoever doesn't fit that vision is subject to racial criticism. These tensions occur to me as I paint. I am able to paint something so real it looks alive, but I prefer painting from my imagination instead of from life, because art's my poetic representation of a perfect reality. It expresses something so emotionally powerful that you can't encounter it in real life. But I've always found it difficult to paint people from imagination, although I can paint a hyperrealistic portrait from life. Because in my artwork, this person will be the embodiment of a form of perfection. I don't believe there to be a person that defines my artwork just because of how his or her face looks like. That's because it's not how pretty the person is that tells the painting story, it's what the person is doing. Because it's the actions that define who a person is. And many artists get so caught up in painting the perfect face that they forget to give life to the body. The only way to pass through the deceivements of looks is to analyze people's actions and not judge the mask that covers their face. You can broaden your perspective by reading books. In Ball and Veldkamp's experimental investigation of the role of emotional transportation, they proved that emotionally transported books boost levels of empathy in readers. Furthermore, according to Manuel Castaño, a psychology professor, and David Comer Kidd, a doctoral candidate of the New School, not only does literature make people more empathetic, but those who read more are able to more personally connect with the book characters and understand the characters' opinions and perspectives. This proves that reading books can do magical wonders. Just now, all these PechaKucha presentations are fueled by books. We read books, that ignited deep thoughts and created awareness through stories and memoirs. Never do we read a book and judge the quality singularly based on the author's race or the narrator's face. We never get to see them, so we can only rate it based on the story told and how things are described, which may be significantly different to how we see the world. So challenge yourself to read something new and different. Ask your librarian to recommend a random book. Read something about different people. Read Invisible Man. The thing here is, now you've taken away the visual aspects of judgment, and instead of looking at the different race with all your opinions of it, you are living the different race with all your opinions pointing at you. I want to one day tell my kids to read books not only so that it will help their literacy, but also broaden their perspectives so they won't judge based on how others look. I don't want to tell them to be themselves, but actually not their real selves in front of whatever racial group so they won't seem different. Because no one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite, said Nelson Mandela. And yet I still have a long way to go to cleanse myself with all my predisposed thoughts. So the first step would be to read more and engage in others' opinions without visual prejudice. That's how we'll elevate awareness through ourselves. Because fixing ourselves is the first priority before we try to fix others. Thank you.